I'm recording now, so just so you know, Brent, we're this project that our chamber is involved with. We're helping kids in the schools, high schools. There's 7 high schools right around Kindersley. We're helping them with entrepreneurship, and the goal of these interviews and talks that we're doing is just to let kids know that you can be from anywhere and you can still succeed. You know, don't let being from a small town stop you from doing and trying to live your dream. That's
Great.
what we're trying to do. So and somebody mentioned your name. I thought, yeah, he'd be a perfect fit for this. So I reached out, and George was nice enough to email back. And thank you very much for participating with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
So Tisdale, Saskatchewan. Wow.
Yeah. Show business hotbed.
Thriving metropolis.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know how many. Eddie Murphy came from Tisdale. Steve Martin is from, Star City. But yeah, no, it's not a real showbiz hotbed.
No, absolutely not. And you get a chance to go back there a lot?
I haven't actually since my mom passed away. My mom was the last person in my immediate family who lived in Tisdale. And she was the reason, that I would go back a couple times a year. Right. I still have some friends there, but I often see them elsewhere. They sometimes come to my shows if I go to Saskatoon, or they'll come out here to the West Coast where I live, so I haven't been to Tisdale in 5 or 6 years.
Oh, that's all right then. I'm sure they'll forgive you for that.
Wow, we'll see. I hope so.
So you were 12 when you wanted to be a comedian. Is that what I hear?
Yeah, that's when I made the decision. It was the first time that I saw somebody doing stand-up comedy. I'd never seen that before. I'd seen, sketch comedy and sitcoms, things like that. But just seeing a guy stand there talking and being funny, I'd never seen that before. And it's, for whatever reason, it's the only thing that made sense to me. Wow. It was like, that's what I need to be doing.
And who do you recall who it was that you saw?
I do. It was a fellow named Kelly Monteith.
No, is he still around?
Yeah,
or?
Yeah, he's still around. Still not super active. He's he's in his 70s now. I think he's at least semi-retired. He was an American guy. He went on to the UK and had a very popular TV series over in the UK. Okay. Kind of made his name more there than in the States, but he's an American guy.
Right on. Any regrets so far of everything you've done?
No. I mean, I really do. There might be, minuscule things here or there, but in terms of just, kind of the trajectory that I had laid out for myself, I have no complaints. Everything has gone
right on,
very according to plan in a lot of ways.
Right.
I mean, and maybe in some ways exceeded what I could reasonably expect. There's what you hope for and what you can reasonably expect, and if you land somewhere between those two things, that's a home run.
Life is good then. So when you were starting out, did you actually set goals for yourself? You wanted to be at a certain place, at a certain age or a certain time? Or
no, I wasn't that structured. I mean, I feel that I'm very lucky. I think one of the great blessings in life is if you get to know early on what it is you want to do. Mm-hmm. It's not a deal breaker. Some people don't really settle into what they want to do till they're in their 30s. It doesn't. But if the earlier it happens to you, I think the more fortunate you are. And for me, it happened very early. I always say there was kind of two things that really helped me get where I wanted to go. One is I discovered very early on what it was that I wanted to do, and it felt very true and real to me, and this is what I wanted to do. And the second thing was I was fortunate enough that I grew up in a situation, in a home with my parents and siblings who were really quite encouraging. They were at least not discouraging. One of the things I learned when I moved to Toronto and was doing stand-up there for years and getting to know other comedians, the amount of pushback that they had from their family and the amount of kind of, domestic hurdles they had to overcome because their parents didn't want them to do this as a crazy pipe dream and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I never had that. So I consider myself very fortunate in that way.
I would say you're right. A lot of parents just don't understand.
Yeah, I mean and often it comes from a good place. They want the best from their kid, and they don't want their kid to suffer. But listen, the two don't go together.
That's
You
true.
can't want your kid to have the best and go through nothing to get it, because that's the recipe for creating a monster.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So you do a lot of corporate stuff now? Is that also what I hear?
I do, a fair amount of corporate stand-up, entertaining after events and that kind
Right
of
on.
thing. But I still do a lot of hard ticket show touring. I mean, pre-pandemic,
Of course.
I had to cancel a run of shows through Ontario where it was just a run of theater shows.
Right.
So it's I would say stand-up wise, what I do is probably about 70% ticketed shows to the public and about 30% private corporate shows.
That's good. The fellow you saw when you were 12, Kelly Monteith, is that his name?
Yeah.
Did you consider him a mentor for you, or
I wouldn't say mentor, no.
just someone you kind of
Just
got?
somebody. He was, because I had no, aside from I got to see him because in the late 70s, early 80s, he was one of the comedians who would appear on talk shows.
Okay.
And I was lucky that, like, we didn't have any cable television in Tisdale when I was a kid. We had the two channels, but in the afternoon there was a talk show from Vancouver, the Alan Hamill Show. Later became the Alan Thicke Show, and they would have comedians on there sometimes, and that was my first exposure to stand-ups. And so I actually got to see a lot of great comedians on that show who went on to do good things. But Kelly Monteith specifically, no. I had no interaction with him beyond seeing him on TV a couple times.
Right. Okay. So, and looking back and from where you started and to even to now, so what motivates you to get out of bed in the morning? To make people laugh, or just what does it for you?
Well, for the first 20 years of doing stand-up, first 15 years of doing stand-up, I wouldn't say I got out of bed in the morning. I was rolling out around 1 p.m. because it's like shift work. You're going to the club to start your day at 8 o'clock at night or whatever, and
That's true.
And you're young and having fun, and you're out in the nightclubs, and so I had a very late night existence from the late 80s, really until Corner Gas came along. When we started doing Corner Gas, because television is very much an early morning thing. You have to,
right.
And so I had to do a hard shift from being a night owl to a morning person, and I'm absolutely a morning person now.
It can be a little bit of an awakening, pardon the pun on that.
Yeah, if it wasn't something that I absolutely loved the idea of and felt blessed that I got to do, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it. But to create a TV show, that was one of the things that it was somewhere in that pipe dream and realistic expectation.
Absolutely. When you were growing up then in your teens and stuff, were you working part-time at a grocery store or anything like that?
Yeah, that's exactly what I did.
What did you?
Worked at the OK Economy.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I was the sacking groceries and stocking shelves at the OK Economy. And I also worked at the local newspaper, the Tisdale Recorder, as well as the Melfort Journal. I would do artwork. I would work in the dark room, especially in Melfort, not in Tisdale, but I ran the dark room for a while. So there was a kind of a time between when I got out of high school and when I started doing stand-up, where I was kind of trying my hand at different things. And it was a combination of, I was always very entrepreneurial from the time I was a kid. I was going door to door selling Fuller Brush when I was 12 or 13 years old. I would, when I was 17, I had an office on Main Street where I did graphic art for people, and I also sold specialty advertising. And I was just always interested in kind of forging my own path. I was just entrepreneurial from the get-go. And so when I was 19, I started a publishing company with a friend of mine from Tisdale. We started producing our own comic books.
Right.
And, I'd be up in the middle of the night. I would tell my mom, I was still living with my mom at that time. My dad had passed away, but it was just mom and I at home. And I would be saying to her, if you hear me talking in the middle of the night, don't interrupt me. I'm on the phone with England. I'm talking distribution deals.
Right.
That's going to happen at like 3 a.m. our time. So
she was okay with that.
She was just, what are you doing up there talking to England? But what are you?
She didn't think of those voices in your head, did she?
No, that's why I was very upfront about it. Like, this is what's going on.
There you go. Right on.
She got a kick out of, I think she got a kick out of some of the strange things I tried doing.
Well, I saw one bit you did, a younger bit, when you had more hair. You were doing about, I think it was from Montreal, Just for Laughs Festival. And you're talking about boxing with mom.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah. It's based on, the bit kind of gets blown up a little bit, but it's based on, we used to kind of box for fun, my mom and I.
Awesome.
I never actually did hit her, but there was one time that I came close, and that's what the bit stems from.
Right on.
If I ever had hit her, I probably wouldn't be talking to you today. She was a very powerful Depression era farm woman, not to be trifled with.
She would have put you past next week then.
Yeah.
When you went to Sheridan College, I guess, or university for a short time too, for animation?
Yeah, very short time,
Oh.
like 4 days. I left before orientation week.
Oh wow!
I never actually took a class.
Oh, okay.
So it was like my goal was to do stand up and get into TV and film. I mean, at that time, the goal was just to do stand up, and I thought the prudent thing to do is to have something to fall back on in case this doesn't.
Right.
Because, making it as a comedian, it could very well not happen. So I thought the prudent thing to do would be to have something to fall back on. The only other thing that I could imagine I might like to do for a living that I actually had some capacity to do was animate, be an animator. I loved cartoons. I loved drawing. So I took their test and then passed there. I got accepted into their animation program, went out there. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized this is just kind of a mistake. I need to commit to, I'm not going to be happy unless I throw everything I have at stand-up and see whether I make it or not.
Yep.
And so I bailed while I could still get tuition back. I quit that and just came back to Tisdale, regrouped, and eventually started doing stand-up in Saskatoon.
Excellent. I was just looking at your Spider-Man pinball machine, America. You could have been the next Stan Lee.
Yeah, that was one of the things that there was kind of three things that I imagined I would like to do for a living: stand-up comedy, draw comic books, and play goal in the NHL. I knew pretty early on I didn't have the skill set to play goal in the NHL. One time at a hockey tournament playing against Wendell Clark when Tisdale met Kelvington, really cemented the notion that, there's different levels to hockey. I see. I believe he scored 10 goals on me that game. But drawing and doing stand-up were both kind of reasonable goals for me. But only one I really loved, or the only one I really wanted to do. I like to draw for fun, but to do it as a living, I would have a hard time with it.
And you still draw for fun then?
I do. And I still do, with the animated project, Corner Gas Animated, I still do some of the artwork revision, the storyboard artwork revisions and things like that. Less and less as we do more and more seasons because we're all on the same page now.
Right. Did you like doodle a lot and stuff when you were in school then?
Oh yeah. Yeah, a ridiculous amount. And I would always get busted for passing cartoons to my friends and making them laugh, and then the teacher would intercept the.
Well, that's good. Well, that's great. What's in your future? What do you see now coming up?
Well, I mean, stand-up has morphed into where I run a production company, and that production company has developed a distribution arm. And so, my production company, Sparrow Media, produces Corner Gas Animated with partners. We've made a couple movies, and like I said, we're developing distribution arm now. So a lot of my, I'm still involved, mainly in delivering Corner Gas Animated season by season. That's the thing that's taking up the bulk of my day, is just writing scripts, delivering episodes, doing everything from a producer standpoint that I need to do. And then it's, administratively running the company, doing all that kind of, banking, bookkeeping stuff that you got to do to run a company, and waiting for the world to get back to normal and I can resume doing live shows.
That'd be nice. Yeah.
But a big part of, what I do is run the production company and deliver TV and film.
So does it take you a while sometimes to come up with new material for a stand-up show?
It's kind of evolutionary for me. As I write like a couple new minutes, I'll fold that in, and a couple old minutes will fold out. And so it's kind of revolutionary. Over time, you end up with a whole new hour. But that's the way I do it. Some comedians they'll do an hour for a year, drop it, and then write a whole new hour. But I think too often that new hour takes a couple of years to get good, So, so yeah, that's the way I do it. It's just kind of evolutionary.
Right. Has there been any, I won't say letdowns, but what would you find has been the hardest part of your journey so far?
Well, I think the hardest part, it definitely wasn't a letdown because I enjoy this aspect of it very much. In fact, I think I would have enjoyed my journey a lot less if this wasn't the case. But it has been difficult, and that is really just cannonballing in and learning as I go. There was no school for stand-up. You just had to get out and do it. And then I got, you talk about mentors. Really, the only person I really consider a mentor was this TV producer here in Vancouver named Michael French, who hired me to write some stuff. And then he became the guy who taught me how to produce television, taught me how to edit, taught me how the financing structures work. And he was the guy who would answer endless questions that I had. But it was really, that was how I had to learn. I just had to dive in and start paddling and see how far I could swim. And that was the difficult part, but it's also the most fun. And the same thing happened when I started doing a TV series. I'd never done that before. I'd only ever done one-off specials, and a TV series is a whole other animal. So I had to learn how to do that while we were doing it. And then now we're doing animated, and I had to learn how to animate while we were animating. But I'm a big believer in keeping your eyes and ears open. I'm a big believer in the saying, you have two eyes, you have two ears, you only have one mouth. So shut up and reserve those. Use your mouth for questions, and your eyes and ears for figuring stuff out.
Couldn't have said it any better myself. That's awesome. So for the rest of your day today, we just took up a little bit of your time anyway. Any kind of, I guess, last remarks for you would, any last words you would impart to kids in school and who want to be entrepreneurs, who want to have a dream and they want to go for it?
If it's something you're passionate about, go for it, especially while you're young. The great thing about being young, and you're only young once, the great thing about it is there's a lot of opportunity to, if you fail, you fall flat in your face. Fantastic. Now you got your whole life ahead of you to get up and do it again. That's Whereas right. If somebody's starting something in midlife, they have a lot less runway ahead of them. So make your mistakes now. Go for it. And don't. I guess my biggest piece of advice would be, don't worry about failing. Don't worry about falling on your face, because there's a tremendous chance it's going to happen. Exactly. And it's more, I've always got a kick out of the phrase, losing is not an option. I always say, yeah, it's not an option. It's a very good likelihood. Don't think of it as an option. It's most likely going to happen. And when you lose, you lose a couple of teeth, you dust yourself up, you get off. Now you know when to duck. Yep. Next time you go a few more rounds, and then you get knocked in your ass. Then you get up again, and you get better, trial by fire. You get better the more you get knocked down. Just keep getting up.
Absolutely. You get knocked down 8 times, get up 9. That's the best way.
Yeah, getting knocked down is a blessing. That's where all the lessons in life are laying in the dirt. And unless you get down there, you're not going to find them.
No, and you're right. People later in life are a little more hesitant. to
Yeah,
think
understandably.
about failing, and that's too bad, because you either you fail or you learn. If you don't learn, then you have failed.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah,
have
that's it.
to.
And ideally, you never stop learning. You know,
No,
if you are the day you feel you know enough, you know, is the day you reveal what a moron you are.
that's perfectly said. I'm just going to say thank you very much for your time today, Brent. It's been awesome talking to you.
No, it's my
And
pleasure.
we're going to be having these series of interviews we're going to be giving out to our local 7 local high schools, and they're going to be replaying them for their kids. So hopefully they can glean something from our talk today. Something will spark in them that drive to get out and go for what they want to go for. So again,
Great.
thank you very much.
It was my pleasure.
Appreciate your time, sir.
Nice talking to you.
And to you.